So, good afternoon, guys. My name is Ian Lee Hodge, and today we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of super fun stuff. There we go. So the title of my presentation is Playing Without the Instructions Manual, and we'll get to why it's called that here inside a second. So who am I? I'm the senior class president here at Cox High School, former mayor to the page of Virginia Beach, Young Republicans chairman, board member on the Spark Education Association, among two others, editor-in-chief of Falcon Press, and an ASPE. Now what exactly does that mean? I'm going to quickly show a video and you kind of explain the autistic spectrum, autism, and Asperger's, and we'll get back to that note. So you can go ahead and pull it back. Is the last part in there? There we go. Ooh, come on.
Talk about autism, but not everyone understands what it is. Autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, affects how people communicate with and relate to others. This isn't the same as being shy or not knowing what to say. Most people with autism don't understand some of the basic social conventions that others take for granted. They might have trouble making eye contact, holding a conversation, or recognizing gestures. And over 1/3 of people with ASD are nonverbal, meaning they don't use speech. Along with communication issues, people with autism often like to follow certain patterns or repeated behaviors. Many have a sensitivity to bright light or loud noises, and others have physical problems like trouble walking or picking up small objects. Some have intellectual disabilities, but about half have average or above average IQs. It's also common for people with autism to have a great long-term memory for certain details, and many excel in math, science, music, or art. With such a wide variety of symptoms, no two people with ASD are alike. The behaviors vary so much that they used to be classified as different disorders. One was Asperger's syndrome, where people obsess over particular topics, miss nonverbal social cues, and may not understand appropriate social behavior. In 2013, scientists realized that the boundary between Asperger's syndrome and some of the other disorders was fuzzy, so they decided to put them all under one name. This made it easier to diagnose autism, which is important. The younger someone is diagnosed, the earlier they can get help.
Ooh, come on, there we go, now we're back. So we're gonna go back to the PowerPoint and we'll explain how that all connects together. So, me as an ASPE, that means I have Asperger's syndrome, which means that some of that social stuff that we take for granted to me is completely not normal. Some, ASPEs that you guys may know, like Christopher from the movie Accountant Rain Man, Sherlock from the TV version of Sherlock, and then most commonly, the number one person I'm often said I resemble is there we go. Sheldon Cooper. There we go. Took me a second there. Yeah, so there are some certain things that I definitely do share in common with him. I'm gonna step back, there we go. Like lack of social awareness, I can definitely tell you like eye contact, one of those absolutely big, huge things isn't processed normal. So this is my graphic on how my brain works. It just has so many things going on all at one time because where we naturally smile or laugh at a joke, that's just common to us. To me, it's a process I have to think about. As a kid, smiling was not in my repertoire. I did not understand it. I was like, okay, what's going on here? What? Why, I don't know. Or sarcasm. Somebody would tell me, get out of the room, and I'd be in tears thinking they were mad at me, and I'd be stomping off, Mom, I did something wrong, and then the person was just in there shaking their leg. Or, as I said, eye contact. When I walk down the hallway, naturally, because it's a stressful situation, having to look at somebody, I go down, left, I look at doors in the school, I'm like, wow, that's room 204, I've never seen that before. It's just to kind of like, just divert my attention. Or hugs. Hugs, in my mind, when somebody comes in to give me a hug, it's like a red light's going off. It's like warning, human contact's about to engage, brace for impact. It's always just kind of a weird situation. I'm just like, there we go. But how does this all connect, And as I said inside the video, having Asperger's gets you addicted to certain topics, or not necessarily addicted, but very interested in certain topics. And you just dive into them, absolutely. And for me, that was government. And for that, we're going to have to go back. But quickly, I want to touch on the topic of explore, dream, discover. That's the overall theme this year for our presentation. And having Asperger's and being able to discover government as the thing I love made it easier for me to just dive into it. And I think we're all at the stages in our lives where we kind of have an idea of what we want to do or what we like, but we're just afraid to take that leap off a cliff and actually engage ourselves inside of it. And what I can say to you guys is just do it. The worst thing that can happen is you can get told no, or you can get told, oh, maybe later. That's not fatal, because if you never try, you're never going to get anything back. So, going back to where it all began, it's with my parents, and as I said, both of them were in the FBI. My mom, that's her getting her FBI credentials from the then director of the FBI, but she worked counterintelligence for 23 years. So that means her job was to make sure our secrets stay our secrets, but also she was the special agent in charge. So that means she ran all the other counterintelligence agents at FBI Norfolk. And both my parents, they met in DC when they were first starting out their careers in FBI. And my dad, he's done a lot. This is actually a news article from when he was a law clerk for a Supreme Court justice in Pennsylvania, and also, meanwhile, becoming a third-degree black belt, nonetheless after serving in the Green Berets, and also guarding the tomb of the unknown soldier. Then after all that, he decided, I want to join the FBI. And he's been to Afghanistan once, Iraq twice, and this picture I wanted to quickly tell a little story of. This is a village elder, there we go, in Iraq, and 3 of the months that my dad was on his 6-month deployment, he was training a Iraqi police force, you know, how to do counterterrorism tactics and certain practices to help them, you know, fight the insurgents. And at the same time this picture was being taken, the graduating class was, you know, engaging in their ceremony, but an insurgent filled a car up with explosives and drove it into the side of the graduation ceremony. If my dad was not taking this picture or meeting with this village elder, there were only 2 men out of the 27 that survived that explosion. So it really just kind of shell shocks you and makes you want to step back and kind of think about everything that you do have. And that's one of those points I wanted to quickly, you know, touch on, is that whenever you have the opportunity, just make sure to step back and realize what you have and be fortunate for it. Because whenever I look at this picture, it's in my dad's office, I just think, if my dad hadn't met with this village elder, God knows where he would have been. So, your parents are cool, but what does that exactly have to do with you? Weird transition there, I know for sure. But being around government 24/7 really kind of gets you fixated to it, because, you know, there would be a Navy general meeting with my mom that she'd bring me to, or an FBI Christmas party, and I'd meet all these secret agents, everybody has their badges, and I thought it was awesome. So, you know, it was about 3 years ago that there was something called OFAD, which it was my first time ever being able to actually engage in city government. I was like, this feels pretty cool, because we were talking about Virginia Beach's 10-year plan and how we're going to, you know, continue expanding, you know, our sports arena, a pier, all that kind of stuff. So any opportunity I had, I just jumped at it. It was politically driven. So there was this guy named Donald Trump, who at the time was a presidential candidate nominee. He wasn't quite the Republican Party's nominee yet, but he was coming to Virginia Beach. It was a private event, so I figured out, how can I get in there? So I applied for press credentials under the title of Falcon Press News. Not Falcon Press High School News, but Falcon Press News. And I got this email, and it gave me all my security info and where I needed to be for all the security checks and that kind of stuff. And next thing you knew, I was there with all the biggest people in the industry. CNN, NBC, USA Today, the guy in the blue right there, I can laser point on, he was talking and going into the Anderson Cooper show. It was really, really weird. I was just like, how did I get here? And then he came out, Chris Christie. And he gave his speech, and then he came around the front, which is where I was, and I was able to reach out my hand and be like, Mr. Chris Christie, I'm Lee Hodgshire, he's a high school student, and the rest from there I still don't remember. It's probably completely in just garbage and his verbal diarrhea, that I can't remember it. And then he came out, the one and only Donald J. Trump. And believe it or not, because at first I thought he was going to say the word big and huge a whole lot, and just going to be that. But he sounds a lot more intelligent in person than some may believe. The news really does pour when coming to choose his sound bites. But, you know, this was the third part, probably the scariest part. But some of you may know who this is, who it's not. It's Ivanka Trump. She was walking out of the front of the Westin with her 3 Secret Service guys. I just subconsciously go, Ivanka Trump, Ivanka, oh my God, oh my God. The Secret Service guys look back at me. One of them grabs a stun gun, thinking I'm about to attack her, I know a stun gun. And I just get out of the building like, okay, I don't want these guys trying to arrest me or anything. So the president, or now president, is rolling out of the facility, and that's my favorite picture of him waving at me. He stares right into my camera lens and gives a little wave, and I'm sitting there like, oh, this is legendary. But then this is probably one of the most funny things I saw that day, and of course, you know, after the event, all the police have to go home, and the Virginia Beach Police Department did not look at the clearance sign. So they spent 30 minutes trying to figure out how to get their armored truck under that sign. And eventually, they just said, screw it, we're going to floor it. And if you go to the West End today, you'll see it split in half. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, these guys can stop a terrorist, but can't fit under a sign. That's 10 out of 10. And I met this guy at the event as well. His name at the time was State Delegate Scott Taylor. Now Congressman Taylor, but we'll get back to that in a second. So, after talking with Scott, I wanted to get involved in the city. So there's two commissions you can get on as a high schooler, the Human Rights Commission and the Historic Preservation Commission. The Historic Preservation Commission did not have a seat at the time, so I emailed a councilwoman, Shannon Kane, and said, can I get on this? Expecting not to get any response. She says, oh yeah, sure, absolutely, we can get you on next month and you'll serve a 1-year term, life's great. So next thing you know, I walked into this room and it literally was the typical, walk into a bar joke. There was an African-American, a Latin American, a Native American, a priest, a rabbi, a Muslim, the president of Hampton Roads Pride, a blind woman, and me, the white high school. And if you want to talk about a culturally diverse room, that was definitely one of them. And there was so much I learned during my time on the Human Rights Commission, but my favorite moment was being able to go to jail. Now, it's not the high school jail tour that we do, it's actually, we got to go and see the suicide prevention rooms, how the prisoners were taken care of in their medical facilities. And actually, I got to talk with some of the mentally ill prisoners who are opioid addicts or, severely depressed and actually inflict self-harm to get back in prison to get meds. But there's also something I never realized, and it's who this guy was right here. And his name's Rocky Holcomb. He ran against Delegate Turpin earlier this year, and it didn't hit me. But when I went home and figured out who this guy was, it made so much sense on why he made this really weird face when I introduced I was from Cox High School. So, considering I was 1 for 2 in the city government, I was like, I gotta be 2 for 2. I gotta get another seat. So I drafted a proposal to the mayor of Virginia Beach saying, I want to make an internship in your office. And next thing you know, I got an email back that same day saying, we'd love to see you Thursday and hear your plan. The thing is, I didn't have a draft made. I just kind of had this idea. I didn't have anything written out. So I had to spend the entire next day writing out this full plan for a mayoral internship and pitch it to him on Thursday. And that year I'd be attending the State of the City address with the mayor of Virginia Beach. I'd be behind the scenes actually learning about all the policies. That's during the Cavalier voting session where they had to step out of the room and they were like, hey Ian, do you think what this woman's saying about me is true? And I'd always have to be like, oh yeah, no, Mayor Sessions, you're definitely not crazy. I promise you that. Because there's some people that come to those meetings and say some weird things, let me trust you. Just a side note, about the pier project. There was this one woman, because Virginia Beach is possibly thinking about adding a pier, with the Ferris wheel on it, but she was trying to say that if a hurricane came, the Ferris wheel would detach, then roll down the ocean front, hit a hotel, collapse the hotel, proceed to roll on down to Shadowlawn, and then proceed to hit and destroy more houses. So I was always sitting there listening to that one, like, how do you come up with this? I got to go visit our superintendent on behalf of the mayor's office. He doesn't smile when he sees me anymore, but also I got to play cornhole with them too. And let me tell you, do not play cornhole against Mayor Sessions and the city manager Dave Hansen. They are ridiculously good. It's absurd. But going back to that guy named Scott Taylor, I just moseyed my way on down to his victory party once upon a time. And this is back to I'm saying just jump off the cliff and get yourself involved because you never know what's going to come out of it. And next thing you know, I was invited to his town hall, and I was behind the scenes after his town hall where he was doing, once again, more interviews. And Anderson Cooper seems to come up a lot, but this was Congressman Taylor on the Anderson Cooper show, and I was sitting there like, should I jump in front of the camera and say hi to Anderson Cooper? Do you know how legendary that'd be? That'd be absolutely awesome. But he had a Secret Service guy sitting right there, so if I did that, I'd probably get stuck down again. Awesome. And then now that brings us to where we are modern day. I created the Young Republicans Club with the help of Warren Smith, and I've promoted myself from local government to state government, getting fully involved as much as I can in the local Republican Party, because as I said, just throw yourself into. That's Senator Bill Staff, Jason Myers to the right, our delegate Jason Myers to the right, and actually, I've been able to build relationships with these guys. I text Delegate Myers whenever I have a problem. I call Senator Steph whenever there's something I think whenever there's something I think that is wrong, like the whole school security situation. I literally texted him the day after and started trying to figure that out. And the most recent event was being able to attend the Cavalier Gala for its grand opening. Because some of you don't know, the Cavalier just reopened, and I was there on the big opening night and got to see, Delegate Myers and Delegate Davis. There we go. And it's just cool, all the opportunities I've been afforded because I just threw myself into it. I would jump into the pit symbolically, but I'd probably break my legs. So getting over to the whole so what of this presentation. So my equation is exploring plus discovering will equal your dream. And as I said earlier, you just have to jump into it. At the end of it, there may be a no or a bad answer, but there's also the opportunity of a really cool bouncy house that you'll love and you'll adore for the rest of your life. And that's what happened with me. I was thinking I was going to go to venture capitalism or banking or some boring finance job where I'd be crunching numbers. But then I just said, this government stuff's pretty cool, and I just went for it. And it's paid off absolutely. Every day that I wake up, I can tell you I have a smile on my face for the most part. And then the second thing in closing that I wanted to tell you guys about, or I wanted to point out, is with Asperger's and autism, you just need to be not so quick to judge people in society anymore. And especially inside high school, because we all want to call people the weird kid or the popular kid, or in larger scale in American society, we want to call, oh, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, oh, you're a crazy conservative, you're a loony liberal. We all just want to classify people. When in reality, we're all Americans. We all have a dream that we just want to chase after. So the fact is, as high schoolers, you may think that we don't have a huge impact, but genuinely we are the future. Most of us were born from 2000, 1999 and up. So we are the beginning of this century. If you ever thought about that before, the seniors this year, we're the first high school graduates actually born in this new century. So we genuinely have the impact to possibly bring back the country, remove the idea of polarization, and actually be a united people once again, because it all starts here with us. Just go and talk to the kids that necessarily aren't the most extroverted people in the world. Because trust me, I'm an introvert person at heart, and getting up here, I still question how in God's name Shu may ask me to do this. But you just got to talk to the kids that are slightly more quiet, because they may have stories like me. And with that, I guess I'll open up for questions. I have more stories if you guys want to hear those about my parents or myself. I'll take anything. Anything? A story? Me or my mom or dad? Anything? Dad? Okay. Oh boy. Okay, so my parents' worst anniversary dinner ever. So they were both still at FBI DC, and this was back in the day before cell phones were a thing. So the waiter comes over to me, and my mom, she's that golden champagne drink. A phone, they're like, oh, Mr. Lee, the FBI's on the phone. This guy's probably crapping his pants. And my dad gets the phone call. Okay, John, we need you because you're SWAT team leader at the time. We need you to get down here. We have one of FBI DC's top 10. We got to make sure that we get him in jail. And you're like, whoa, dude! It's my anniversary. You can't just have me coming out here, busting down a guy's door on my wife and I's anniversary. They're like, oh yeah, no, it's okay. We'll throw in a ballistic vest and gun in the car for safety. Don't worry about it. So they go on down to this DC slum, and they open up the back of the car. My dad, gets all geared up, and they throw my mom, a ballistic vest and MP5, and here she is inside high heels and a dress, walking up a fire escape backwards, watching the back, and she's looking. Now there's like these guys, they're looking out the window, catcalling her. They're like, ooh, look at her. She's got a fancy dress in the FBI with an MP5 and, high heels. What is this? And the worst part about it is my daddy goes, busts down the door, and the guy wasn't home. So, literally, they call it the worst anniversary ever. So that one always makes me smile for sure. I can tell you one of the worst situations for me in the city government. It was a safety inspection. I think I put this in my bio, but it was a safety inspection toward the Marine Science Aquarium. And I'm now very conscious about when I buy pants, and it's because the mayor was outside, same with the curator of the Marine Science Aquarium. I go to the bathroom. I go to zip up my pants, but I realize there's something really weird going on. I'm still holding my zipper. And I look down, and it's just one of those moments like, this can't be happening. No. Zipper came off my pants, and I had to go through an entire safety inspection of the aquarium. So I'm like, oh crap, what do I do? So I untuck my shirt, button up my pants, and I'm like this the entire time. I walk out, Mayor Sessman's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. Everything's wonderful, Mary. Let's just get this going. Let's get it moving. So there I am, walking around the Marine Science Aquarium, like I'm a sheriff or something, with spurs on. And next thing you know, we're inside the food prep room for all the fish, and they're like, hey Ian, do you want to do a photo op with the mayor? Tuck in your shirt, and cut up the fish and everything. Put on gloves. I'm like, no, no, I'm good right here. Everything's a-okay. So I make it through an hour of that, and there was one part where the aquarium was under renovation. I'm a tall guy, so I'm like squatting here now, crab walking or something along the aquarium. And then I go back to the mayor's office the next day, and they're like, so, Ian, did you have a sick stomach or something? I'm like, yeah, I had some really bad fish for lunch. It's okay. Yeah, no, nothing else was going on there. I think that was probably one of the most scarring moments I've ever had in this office, for sure. Yeah. How much more time do we got here left? Because I think I'm how much? 2 minutes. Oh, God, what can I do in 2 minutes? I know, I'm trying to think of some good ones here.
There's a question, Ian.
What? Question, yes. Yes, I did. I was an equestrian for 13 years. My horse Righteous, he went to Washington International Horse Show. I got second place in the state, I think it was like 4 years ago. I can't remember honestly, it's been a while. Because I gave up my equestrian life to do government full time. So there are some things you have to give up to really follow your passion. God. Oh, okay. No, this is a story I'll leave you guys on. It's about my mom and dad again, because of course I love her to death. But, so FBI Norfolk is a small field office. So when there's ever like a big bust or something going on, they have to call all hands on deck. So my mom was pregnant at the time with me, and my dad, they got a tip on a meth house. A huge meth house project. So they're like, okay guys, we gotta saddle up, we gotta go bust the meth house. And my mom's sitting there, she has day sickness, she's puking, and she's like, whoa, you're not getting me to go out to a meth house when I'm 4 months pregnant, there we go. And next thing you know, there she is, once again high heels, with a shotgun, going and watching the back door to this meth house, pregnant, and she's just like, oh Lord have mercy, please tell me nobody comes out through the back door. Good news is, the guy that came out through the back door was the unarmed guy. So she was able to say, dude, I am not feeling it, please just get down on the ground. And I guess a pregnant woman with a shotgun's intimidating because he dropped. And with that, I'll say thank you guys all for being awesome. I hope you